I know some of you already know her. I happen to know her through a dog connection, and I have been raising service dogs along with my friend Ellen in the back for, well, you've been doing it for how long? 15? And raised how many dogs? 10 dogs.
These are dogs for blind and guided dogs. I call them the Olympians.
So I do have a favor today. If you would just please double check your phone, make sure they are turned off, just out of respect for Meg. And I usually let my speakers introduce themselves because they do a much better job than I ever could. So Meg Olmert, thank you for being here today.
I'm going to leave the lights down a little,
Okay.
The slides,
Okay.
and for my improved look.
If I knew how to do that,
Somebody put my hand away.
I can't.
Is it doing it?
My name?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that good, or you want them all the way off?
Yeah, I can still see everybody even if it's darker. Look at that guide dog. Hi everybody. Hi to all of my darlings who I already know, and hello to all my new friends. I love this pack. And how lucky am I to be able to speak about the human-animal bond. It only brings out the best people. And so I am sad to see we don't have a single pet four-legged here today. All right. Well, that would have been nice for me because I love. As I'm speaking, if I look at a dog, my heart rate will come down, my blood pressure will come down, and that's what it calls, of course. Anyway, so I guess as an intro, for the past 15 years, I've been working in the animal-assisted trauma therapy world. Prior to that, I wrote a book, the first book to ever look at the brain chemistry that made domestication, civilization, and our world as we know it today possible. And so the brain chemistry of the human-animal bond that brought us together, and it can bestow powerful therapeutic effects on our hearts and minds. So that's my story. My book is, there's some copies in the back. Of course, I didn't probably bring enough because why would I want to do that? But if you're interested, I hope that you'll take a look at it. Today, I'd like to zip through prehistory. I know it's a historical society, but I work in the prehistory end of things. And as you see, this is the crux of the story. We are social mammals. Our brains are wired to make us feel compassion, companionship, and to act cooperatively. I know it might not seem like that at times, but we have a very powerful brain network that has evolved to do that. That's why we come together in communities. That's why we're here today sitting in the same room. All of these acts are run by a brain chemistry that brings us together. And these acts are not selfless. Acts of altruism, acts of cooperation are not selfless. So our good social behaviors are rewarded through the brain chemistry that also releases calm and well-being. So that's really important that we have this sense of wellness when we do good things and when we do come together. And it's the evolutionary wisdom of social sustainability. Even neurobiologically, it is proven that to give is greater than to receive. And that's the math. And it's a forward, self-propelling chemistry that keeps us coming back from everything from waving hello to somebody, or even just walking past them on the street and not, just with a neutral face. That level of civility, all the way through to hugs and kisses and sex and babies, and then the cycle continues. We must come together as social mammals or we start to die. Our hearts explode, our brains explode, and this is why it's so critical for us to come together. What we have learned just in the past 5 years is how strikingly similar our social brain wiring is to the brain wiring of dogs. This is why they're our best friends and have been our best friends for 30,000 years. It is not a coincidence. It is not some giant group hallucination that you're having. Which people used to want to say, that it was all altruism and pathetic people that can't get along with humans. No, it's the same brain chemistry. Chimpanzees do not have this same brain chemistry. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to some other things, but it's very interesting. As they're closer to us genetically, gene for gene for gene, but they have one little part missing in the reward section of the brain that will make them rip our faces off, and our dogs rip our faces off. Okay, so let's get started in prehistory. This is the Ice Age landscape that gave birth to the powerful bonds that would change our very nature and our very fate. For 100,000 years, humans were only prey animals. We were surrounded by creatures that were faster, stronger, and we were wildly outnumbered. We hung in the margins like this, while this amazing display went on around us. Oops, excuse me. And we hung in and we stared for dear life. We had to learn everything we could about these animals that could just crush us in like that. And so we became animal behavior experts and animal anatomists. The drawings in the caves are extraordinary. How exactly right they are anatomically and behaviorally. And this is what we knew would happen if we got it wrong, if we didn't do our homework. And we did it. We drew over 1 million times, we drew images of animals over 20,000 years. That's a lot of homework. That's repeating the times table many, many times. And if we didn't get it right, we knew this was our fate. And this gives you a sense of how good we were at it. It tells you a couple of things. One is how close we were able to get to the big predators. These drawings on the cave, you'll notice right here that there are whisker dots, which, well, it kind of gets lost in this, whisker dots, which modern day wildlife biologists use telephoto lenses from a big safe distance, and they map the whisker dots, and that's how they know the individual personalities in a pride. So our ancestors were able to get close enough and survive and come back into the caves and write it down, and they must have known these animals individually. So they were animal behavior experts on a level that we will never be. Their lives depended on it. They were the Bill Gates and the Steve Jobs of their day, and animal intelligence was as vital to survival as probably artificial intelligence will be for us today. So this is the original AI. And then, as we watched, we were being watched. This was the top predator of the Ice Age. And how many here have dogs? Oh, not too many. Okay. Well, meet the ancestors. Actually, you're not meeting the ancestors in this picture because these wolves are modern day wolves, and they are not the wolves that our dogs came from. Our dogs came from a very similar cousin to these wolves, and that line is extinct now, except in the genetics of our dogs. And those are the wolves that would learn to lay down with the lambs. And that's a pretty unbelievable thing, to suppress the predatory instinct and become a protector instead of a predator. That indicates a major shift in the central nervous system. That is, that's a pretty good trait. And they pulled us to greatness. They made us faster, they made us stronger. They were our secret sauce. This is how the Ice Age balance shifted. The guy who was laying on the ground there in the cave, that was the Ice Age ego. And can I just point out in that picture that that stick person, that's about as much effort that it's very rare to see a human figure in cave paintings. And that stick figure took 2 seconds. So the Ice Age ego was not big. They knew who ruled the roost, and it wasn't us, until we made this incredible alliance. And it took the person with the eye that could look into the eyes of a wolf and see a glint of friendship, when others were just going, ooh. And those were the people that were able to reach out and make the contact and trick the brain chemistry between them that would become what we have today, our dogs today. Most important alliance that we made, there are people who say horses are our most important alliance. I say give them both a big medal. Oddly enough, this is how we know how it happened. These little creatures are the ones who would give us a glimpse under the hood of what's happening in the brain that allows a wolf to be a dog. This is a prairie vole. You can see that's Mr. Prairie Vole, Mrs. Prairie Vole, the babies. They're highly social. They live together. Both parents take care of the babies. They live in big natal colonies. And interestingly, if there's famine or some major stressor, drought, these babies will not go on to create their own families. They'll stay back and help take care of the next generation. They call that alloparenting in the animal world. And it explained all my spinster aunts and bachelor uncles. We came out of a fast too, pre-med situation in Ireland, and people did not procreate. They stayed back and took care of the family. So we do it too. Highly social behavior. They call it altruistic, but again, as I said, there's a reward to it. So there's no such thing as altruism, basically. To give is to receive. This little creature who looks so much like that's a cousin, that's a montane wolf in the mountains, that's the name it implies. And it's a loner. This one does not have any social skills, except when it has its babies. So here's what their brains look like. And you can see on the left here is the prairie vole brain. And look at how all these dark things, those are the oxytocin receptors. So this is what we know now. There's this chemical called oxytocin. And all women know it now because it's a big part of managed birth in hospitals. You get Pitocin, and have for 50 years now, which is a synthetic oxytocin to make your labor contractions happen and get that baby out. And it also makes milk flow. But in the brain, they discovered it's in all these areas of the brain that are related to behavior and emotion. So what's it doing? Well, by comparing it to the cousin of the montane vole and seeing where oxytocin, and this is vasopressin down here, which is a cousin of oxytocin, more common in males. And where it isn't in the montane vole, in these areas that control behavior and emotion, behaviors like maternal behaviors and pup rearing and all of that stuff, it's non-existent in the montane voles, which is why they're social creatures. They're solitary creatures, excuse me. Now, interestingly, when the montane vole females have a pup, have a litter, and it's time to nurse them and all that, they will have a blooming of oxytocin receptors, similar to the prairie vole. And as soon as those pups are weaned, they they just evaporate and the pups are on their own. So they could definitely, you know, through chemistry and all these other things, pinpoint that it was oxytocin and vasopressin, but oxytocin mainly, that is responsible for changing behavior, it's a tuning knob that makes us more social, more altruistic, calmer, and more cooperative. And this is how our puppies would have gotten it, our wolf puppies, because there was no 7-Eleven and there was no Chewy. And so when we had wolf pups in our caves and our tribes, this is how people, the women, would feed them and keep them alive. And this is oxytocin. Oxytocin is releasing the breast milk. It's in the breast milk. The suckling of the trigeminal facial muscles being exercised are releasing oxytocin in the baby. And you've got a powerful oxytocin feedback loop. And they have shown that in certain tribes where women do this, they're very attached to the animals that they do it to. It doesn't mean that they won't give them to the next tribe to kill, but that's another story. So about 15 years ago when, Meg, you get 25. I don't know where those years went. When I first started this, I stumbled upon oxytocin, as did other scientists, and they've discovered that you'll see what it's released by, and it's all these very positive social kinds of engagement and friendly interaction with dogs and all creatures, by the way. They just haven't done the studies in all of the other animals. The physical effects. In the brain, it releases these other chemicals, which you've probably heard a lot of by now. Back in the day, it was, all of this stuff was very new to people. But dopamine and serotonin are both reward chemicals. Cortisol is a stress chemical, so you see it reduces that. Quiet seat amygdala, which is, for shorthand, it's an emotion center of the brain. It is definitely linked to fear behavior and startle reactivity. So you quiet that. Lowers heart rate, reduces stress, anger, pain, perception, increases eye contact. Again, you are able to look into the eyes. Wolves are not comfortable looking into a person's eyes, a human's eyes, or another wolf's eyes. So eye contact is a powerful releaser of oxytocin. And so in that regard, they don't get the benefit of it. And so wolves are not like our dogs in our brain. There's very distinct brain chemistries in their oxytocin brain receptors that makes them wolves and not dogs. It shuts down fight-flight, that defensive behavior, which is antisocial. Defense is antisocial. And that's how we got close. That's how we all came into one another's flight zones and were able to domesticate and calm and care for each other and touch. So this is where, and also, by the way, we would never have cities, we lived in these tribal, small, 150 at the most, groups of social groups for the vast majority of our evolution. And yet, once we started to engage with animals and our oxytocin levels rose as a result of that, everybody got a little calmer. Everybody got a little more cooperative. And then you see the rise of cities or larger social groups were made possible. We could never manage to all be in the same room if we were chimpanzees right now. It would be chaos. So then, and the psychosocial effects. So parental bonding, mind reading. I'm able to empathize. I can look at your face. I can look at your nonverbal, very important, your body language, and see if you're tense. When I say, "How are you?" you go, "Fine." Well, I can discern that maybe that's not fine. And then there's people who can't, like people who have social deficiencies because of disorders like autism. and you will find low oxytocin levels in autism cases. So you see reduced fear incursion. There's a huge one. See other as kin. If you can't see another as kin, you can't love that person. You can't, you just can't give the full love that you should or acceptance. It's why tribalism and territoriality, we try to demonize others, because then we can hate them. If you can see them as kin, you can't. And that extends, of course, we now know, all this oxytocin brain network to animals as well. And now we know that the same oxytocin feedback system that you're seeing in the two parents and the baby, sight, smell, sound, touch, warmth, all of those things are creating this amazing oxytocin feedback system there, and the same thing's happening there, because the oxytocin receptor patterns and oxytocin genes of a dog are almost identical to ours. So you're not nuts if you say that your dog is your baby, or feels like a family member, other as kin. And 14,000 years ago, this had already clearly taken deep root. You can't tell from this picture, but that's a puppy head and there's the ribs. This is a 14,000-year-old grave from Israel, and somebody was buried hugging their puppy. So they were looking for comfort in this life and the next. And the dogs that we relied on to protect us from enemies without for millennia are now their job is to protect us from the enemies within, which is high blood pressure, stroke, loneliness. This is what we now know, that there is this social brain network. And it's taken years to see how complex it is. But amazingly, in 1990, they didn't even know there was a social brain network. And yet, now we know that it's like the most important thing that our brain is doing, basically, because as social mammals, if we don't connect, we die. And we certainly don't keep going. And oxytocin sits at the center. It is a key component of running the whole show. So you saw the things that trigger oxytocin in social connection. And this is not happening here. You're not seeing the eye contact. They're right next to one another, but they're engaged in, you're on the phone with somebody's in Australia, and I'm standing next to Paulette. Am I in Australia or am I with Paulette? I'm in Australia. So this is what I call social not work. They're doing a lot of studies now to see how well the social brain is engaged by virtual connection. It's not good. It explains why you have increasing anxiety and the loneliness that the Surgeon General says is going to kill us all. And that's why for many people now, your dogs are not just your best friends, they might be your only friend. And that's a ridiculous social tragedy that should never be, but thank God we have them. And we look at how in this program that I've worked with now since 2009, this gentleman, Rick Young, he figured out that training a service dog by getting a service member with PTSD to train a young dog that could then be placed as a service dog with another veteran in need would reignite the brain chemistry that is damaged by PTSD. Combat PTSD is a social injury to that social brain network. War is hell, and it's hell on the social brain network. It is the ultimate antisocial act that you can engage in. So you tried to kill somebody, somebody tried to kill you. It just dysregulates all of your social brain chemistry. And it makes you, as you would have it, you wouldn't trust humans anymore. You wouldn't, so what are you gonna do? You're gonna go and sit down with a civilian therapist and tell them about your problems? First of all, you're in the military, you don't talk to civilians. How could they possibly know what you went through? And it's talk, which is so frontal lobe. And there aren't words so often for the pain that we feel. So you better hang out with a creature that can read you like a book and that you don't have to find those inadequate words for. And so Rick figured this out. He's a social worker and a professional service dog trainer, and he had seen how powerful dog training is in releasing oxytocin. So we went to Walter Reed and started the program, and here's Ron, that was little Ron in the last picture, and here he is learning how to open doors and do all the things that he's supposed to do as a service dog. And in the training, it requires patience, empathy, command of your vocal, your ability to communicate. You have to be able to give a command assertively but not aggressively. That's a little nuance to me now that most people with PTSD don't have. Most people don't have it anyway. I mean, you have to be taught that stuff. You have to be taught to learn to love. And to engage with training a dog gives you the opportunity to practice the highest social skills that you could have. You cannot practice on humans. We don't like it. We are not as good as dogs. And dogs are like the honest feedback system. Like, did I say sit right? Did I say it fast enough? Did I say it, or did I say sit? And the dog is like, sit. It's not just assertive, it's just clear, effective communication. And then they do it, and everybody's like, oh my God, you give the treats, and it's joyful, but it's challenging. Anybody's ever tried to train a dog, or child, I suppose, will tell you it's challenging, but the reward is huge. And here, they have to take them out into public, something these guys really wouldn't do. Isolate, PTSD, you want to isolate, and then kill yourself, because that's what happens. That's the circle of the drain. You isolate, you're angry, you're in your room, your family can't take it anymore, the wife divorces you, she's afraid of you around the kids, you're isolated, and then you have 22 suicides a day. Or you learn to do this, and you get the dogs out, and you have to lead them through Times Square or the supermarket with confidence, calm confidence. You model the behavior. And in modeling the behavior, you're getting the neurochemistry that supports that dog. You're rebooting the social brain network that was damaged during combat trauma. The dog this guy couldn't speak. He was about to be institutionalized. I published a case study on him. And he became one of the public speakers for our program. These are pick up your palette and walk findings. I am happy to say that we just are getting ready to publish the findings from our large study. We had a pilot study at Walter Reed that showed that this program was highly effective at reducing PTSD symptoms and improving social welfare and communication skills and keeping families together. We did a follow-on study with more people, and that was, the first one was 6 hours, the next one was 12 one-hour sessions, and we showed significant reduction in PTSD, significant reduction in anxiety and depression, and we did the biochemistry finding in conjunction. That was really hard to get done. That's a very high-level research. And we showed oxytocin goes up, a couple of other biomarkers that I haven't mentioned, BDNF and neuropeptide Y up, and cortisol down. All the stress chemistries down. Even genomically, the tuning knobs switched in favor of well-being. So this is the first study to ever really not just find the psychosocial effects, but to drill down and show the chemistry underlying that. Now, the great part about this is that it is the training, stupid. Training a dog is high-level social engagement. It's not having a dog and there's the dog laying over there. That's good. Hey, 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 love you, love you, love you. But when you engage with your dog or your cat or your horse or your anything, your child, you know, I think you can see how this goes right up the food chain. If you really use high-level social engagement, the outcome is the best. Quality of attention you apply to anything besides the quality of the outcome. So what we know now, because you have dogs, you know how good they make you feel, right? For you, you're probably going, duh. Well, yeah, duh, I agree. But we are at a point of trying to understand dosage and delivery, as they say in the big pharma trade. So, yes, dogs make us feel better. How do we engage with them to get the maximum benefit for both the dog and the human? Because we're using this as a therapeutic intervention. So we want to be sure that we are finding the most potent way to release this brain chemistry in both. And I found it. So that's amazing, and we're very proud, and we're very happy, and we hope that now the DoD and the VA will quit getting in our way and offer this safe, effective, non-pharmaceutical intervention for trauma in every one of their medical facilities. Let's hope. So, then I get a call from Sarah Schmidt, who's the head of program in Uganda. I knew nothing about Uganda. I mean, I had heard about the Civil War. And she tells me that they have a program over there called the Comfort Dog Project, where they're pairing war survivors with local village dogs that they're rescuing to treat the trauma. And then she describes the war. 20-year-long war. 1.8 million people displaced and put in concentration camps, 82 latrine, typhoid, no food, beyond belief. I mean, we could never survive this. 25,000 children kidnapped and forced to kill and mutilate and got all this stuff. So 70% of the people in that survived it in northern Uganda have severe post-traumatic stress, much more severe than the people I was working with at Multi-Group. One psychiatrist per million. So we think mental health care is hard to get here, and it is. There, it's impossible. But, as I said to Sarah, and she's telling me this, and I'm listening, going, oh my God. I said, but do people like dogs there? Because I knew that critical to our success in our programs and any animal assisted therapy programs that the people like going in, they like dogs, cats, horses, whatever you're using. She said, no. They hate dogs because of rabies. And culturally, rabies, everyone knows somebody who's died of rabies. And their kids walking to and from school, for the most part. And everybody has dogs. Well, let me just go back here, because this is good. The saying in Uganda is, let's go back and look at these poor kids. The ones who made it back out of the bush, you can imagine those weren't great odds, are shunned from the community because of the horrible stuff that they did. They were forced to do it. They were children. They had no childhood. They would be killed if they didn't, and the ones that didn't were killed by them because that's what they did do. And don't waste a bullet. Figure out some other way to do it. It's grisly and awful. So the people who made it back were absolutely shunned by their communities as evil spirits. You kill us, we hate you. Well, as we know from PTSD in our world, here, social isolation will kill you. You are not going to survive social isolation if you have trauma. These people were forced, they were absolute pariahs. So, and for people who don't have family help, community help when they fall ill, this is the Acholi saying, that's the tribe there. You will heal like a dog, and that is not a good prognosis. So, all these people, mostly children, were left in this state. So Big Fix comes in, this incredible organization. Sarah read my book and she called me up and she's telling me this, and I just, kidding me? This is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. And so she told me about the dogs, and she says, yeah, everybody has them, but they don't take care of them. They don't feed them, they don't give them water, there is no way to give them any health care. And they're considered garbage, even though they're essential for hunting and protection when you don't have a dog. What you're looking at here with these dogs are the oldest dogs on the planet. These northern Uganda village dogs have been shown to have the oldest genes of any dog on the planet. There's no European modern dog DNA in these guys. These are ancient history dogs. These are as close as we'll come to the proto-dogs that evolved out of that line of wolves that had the right brain stuff to allow approach and interaction with humans. And that's pretty amazing. But they've lived for all those millennia in this state of parasitic agreement. They can hang around. If you get too close to that guy, you kick his face in. So they're tolerated, and they figure out how to steal what they can, but they get poisoned and they get killed. It's bad. Brutish and short. So one of the things that Big Fix first decided would be a big fix was to try to fight the rabies. So they set up these rabies vaccination centers free, and thousands come. And this is the beginning of being able to say to people, dogs can be your best friend. It's hard to say a dog can be your best friend and it might turn around, bite you, and give you rabies. So, it's like whack-a-mole. First things first, let's get the rabies under control if we can. And people came from all over, and it was really interesting because I was there that day. And I'm thinking, I remember Old Yeller. I always had to be taken out of RKO center where I saw it on a stretcher. And I have gotten my animals rabies shots to protect them. Like, oh my God, I don't want them to be like Old Yeller and get rabies. I never thought about protecting me. It wasn't me I'm protecting. So you're not, so altruism, there's no such thing. These people are not necessarily bringing their dogs here to give them healthy, happier lives. It's self-preservation. But this is where it starts. And we do spay and neuter clinics. Oh my God. We did 150 surgeries that day. I was doing them under the flashlight on my camera at the end. It was nuts. But this was the kicker for me. Because Sarah told me on the phone, well, we set up these dog bathing stations, and we'd have dog bathing parties, and people went, what? Oh, you crazy lady, you white people, you are nuts. But you can't love and hold a dog that is, believe me, I was touching them. But, so get rid of the rabies, get rid of the parasites, get rid of the stink, And so we taught them how to bathe their dogs. And when the dogs, at the end of it, when they saw them shiny and clean, the pride, all of a sudden, they changed. The owners changed. That man carried those 2 dogs miles home so they wouldn't get dirty again. That's oxytocin. Oxytocin is released between a mother and baby instantly. You cannot wait for the baby to be cute, get over that colic, and go, mama. You have to love it, you have to protect it, you have to care for it, you have to give all of yourself, your bodily fluids, everything, immediately. Oxytocin acts immediately and profoundly. And that's what you saw, because grooming is one of the most basic parental behaviors. And when she told me that, and I saw it for myself, I said, this is the law. This is it. This is our hospital, and you see we've treated over 100,000 patients for free over 365 days a year. Try to get your vet to do that. I have to put this picture. We have this year. We got proper. We were able to raise enough money to actually, all these years in, get a stainless steel operating table made. It came up here as opposed to our poor vets. We're working like this. I mean, I look at them sit back. Paulette would have been going, oh my God, that's you guys. Let's do some stretching. Just unbelievable. So they put them up on those. But better than nothing. Oh, what happened to my healthy animals make healthy people? Oh well, you get the picture. This is the comfort program. Everybody's a critic. Okay, here I'm going to give you a little film that says it all. Aren't they great though? This is local Roma. Doesn't she look like she came right off an Egyptian wall painting? Oh dear, it's not. Let's see. Oh, this isn't good. I wonder why it's not working. All right, I'm going to say it's not working. This was this is Philda, and she is our lead dog trainer now. She was, I really wish you could see this and have her tell the story. There is a technology person somewhere. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa, who is in charge of our medical emergency response team. But okay, so fill the face. Oh, it's not me.
I'm calling the IT guy.
It's not me.
Yes, this is Bill Joe. Can you put me through to Bob?
Oh, you got the right person in the room.
Oh, he's not here.
Oh, okay. I'll tell the story, and I would ask you to go online and you can see it.
Thank you.
But thank you for trying.
Sorry.
Showbiz. So Zilda was kidnapped with her 2 brothers when she was 11 years old, and her one brother tried to escape, and she had to watch him be hacked to pieces in front of her.
Leon, help.
And she was, in the bush for years. Hi, Leon. The video doesn't want to play. Yeah, I can.
Okay.
All right. I don't want to mess with this. You know what? You can go online. We'll look at this online. Okay, thank you for trying. So, anyways, Vilma, we started a program at Big Fix to send psychologists out to the surrounding villages to try to give trauma counseling. People that have didn't even know what PTSD was. And and Francis, who's our psychologist, was able to convince some of these young people who had no options that dogs could be their friend. They were dying of loneliness. They were, she was considered a whore and an evil spirit and spit on, and he said, a dog can be your friend. Francis was blinded in the war, and he had dogs that were friends to him and helped him. And he explained that, and so he recruited 8 people to start a Comfort Dog Project, which is so much like the Warrior Canine Connection. We pair people with dogs we have rescued and rehabilitated from the hospital. They learn how to train the dogs. Now, nobody's ever seen a dog on a leash before. And so, Lucy's walking and look at me, which is the eye contact and grooming and sit and basic behaviors. But dog training is the most powerful way to reboot the damaged social brain network. And so this has been incredibly successful. There they are. Look at that. Wait. Oh, here, look. Now, I want you to see, you see these smiles here? Oh, look at these people smiling. Nobody smiled. Nobody smiled. People were killing themselves. Suicide is ridiculously high. Look at smiles. We now know smiles are release oxytocin in the brain. So, and then our first graduating class in 2015, and Sarah, they took PTSD and measures going in before, it's a 20-week program before and after, and they have kept up doing that. We have data for now over 100 participants, and I was able to publish showing significant improvement, sometimes 100%, no longer any PTSD symptoms. All of these people would have been thrown in the trash. They were garbage. And now they are doing rescue, community healthcare workers, doing dog rescue and school programs. There's Filda with local Roma at the schools, and I know I wonder this is in our schools program. These children are afraid of dogs. So they never knew such a thing was possible. In Acholi, Francis was speaking on a loudspeaker before she started doing her training, saying, these dogs have been vaccinated, they're safe. These children have been taught, do not. So now we want every dog to come from dog. That's our goal, because these kids all have secondary PTSD. Over 100 people have graduated from the program now, and they are vital members of their community. They're public health care workers. The success is extraordinary. And there's a new saying in northern Uganda: you were healed with a dog. So I'd like to answer any questions, and specifically if you have questions about your own pets, because I know that this was over like on another level, but it's all the same thing. Yes?
I think, anyone who's got a dog and has ever lost a dog, I'm just wondering what the effect is, especially for the PTSD folks who completely changed when your dog dies. Is there an effect? How do they handle that? Because I know I didn't handle it very well.
That is the question. Thank you for asking that question. It is the question because we didn't know. And beautiful local Roma died last year. You're right, they have a lifespan. And it's a little bit shorter than ours for the most part because they had hard starts. But Hilda now has local Roma too. And I mean, there's studies to be done. These people are more resilient than us. They are more resilient. I don't know why, but I'm sure that we will, we want to do, I'd like to do genetic studies. I'd like to really understand why they have more bounce than we do. We support them tremendously. All these dogs have lifetime free veterinary care. And if anybody runs into trouble, as they do, they're not being able to feed themselves or their dogs, we have emergency care where we provide food and whatever they need. And we do, we have portraits done of the people and their dogs for every lost dog. I mean, we do a big memorial services, I guess, for the lost dogs. It's not anything we push to the side. And they support each other. It's incredible. They support each other. It's such a strong community now. And so they get another dog right away. And so Philda is already, several people are on, their dog and they say too. And, but that is my question that, Sarah's just going over there next week, and that's one of the things I'm hoping to have a sit-down Zoom with everybody to discuss. Because you're right, this is like when you say side effects, that the loss can be a huge side effect. But one thing that personally I have learned is that if you really engage honestly and fully with your pet, then when you lose them, I call it a clean wound. You're not wrapped with guilt and regret, and those are the things that fester, and don't let it heal. And so even though they blow a hole in you, you can get another. And you can say, I'll never let look at my baby. You're off to the races again. It's extraordinary. But I think because it's a clean wound.
What about with the PTSD folks? Do they have?
Oh, that's interesting. No, see, they're training the dog for somebody else. The ones in the Warrior Canine Connection program. They're not training them for themselves. They're only training the dog during their period of treatment, once a week. So that could be 2 weeks, it could be a year, the treatment plans vary. They're service members. They leave their families to go fight wars. They're not like us. They're a very special dog, and they are dogs. The loyalty, the pack loyalty, they're very dog-like. But when there has been, on occasion, people who had a hard time passing the leash to the next trainer, we've been able to work with their team, and every time it's been not the loss of this dog, but it is referring to another loss. Their friend who was sitting next to them in the truck when the IED went off, and they had just changed places so the guy could have a cigarette out, or something. And that had been some loss that had not come up because they were stuffing it. So even loss, when you're passing the leash to the next person to train it, it's not like, mom and dad are taking the puppy to the farm. That's a bad loss. And so that loss is, they get it. And they're service members. They're doing it for their fellow war buddy. So that mitigates it a lot.
Thank you.
Sure. No, that's a key question. Yes?
I read somewhere a couple of years ago that they, for a long time, they surmised that civilization, that permanent settlements for humans began with agriculture. But archaeologists have discovered that it actually began so the first permanent settlements appear, I think it's about 30,000 years ago, which is about 10,000 years before agriculture.
Yeah.
But it coincides perfectly with when dogs appear domesticated.
Yeah.
And they think it's literally dogs that because for the first time,
We didn't have to chase them.
well, and there's a warning system. The reason they couldn't settle permanently was because if they raised crops and created treasure of any sort, somebody else would come and take it.
Yeah.
And And now with dogs, they can hear them coming, and they can defend themselves.
Yeah, and also, you know, we were also following the prey. You know, we had to follow just like they did. And once we got together and the dogs helped us corral things, we were able to have a more secure food base. And that, you know, full stomachs make for happier people.
So we can play
They weren't
spot.
angry anymore.
We can play spot to be in our division.
Always,
Yes.
always, absolutely. I don't, he had a ferret, a woman with a
That's
ferret.
right. Good for you.
But, oh, I have it up in my house. And 2 places. But I'm trying to think.
Only one of them's the original.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Well, there, in all the, you know, all the medieval art, you see dogs are in the churches, dogs are everywhere, absolutely everywhere. So, but it's more like the Ugandan thing. In Uganda, I'm watching the human dog bond evolve before my bare eyes, and it takes 4 weeks. That's how fast. And that's the part they always leave out about dog domestication. Well, it made us better hunters, it made us better protected people. It profoundly changes your heart and mind. You are a different person.
We
And
need to
that's,
send them to the Middle East.
well, they don't like dogs there. Interesting. And they don't like women, they shrink wrap them too. A couple of things I would point out as red flags. What could go wrong? Yes. Another question? Yes.
I have one. Yes, this is from my own experience with my own dog. You know, obviously, if you're training and the dog wants to do something that you don't want it to do, you know, in fact, to obey you, it's something that the dog like really wants. My dog probably, you know, some dead animal someplace, but and you basically, you know, refuse to let the dog indulge in this type of behavior, and the dog gets mad at you, which my dog has done, and they sulk. They're mad at you because you left town and left them behind, and they're sulking.
Yeah, we
How
should
do
never
you-
leave them.
You make sure you reestablish that bond that, you know, creates this chemical connection.
Well, I'm not a professional dog trainer. I've certainly been in and around. I would say I'm dog trainer adjacent. 2 things I would say about that. A guy named Klinghoffer who studied wolf behavior at Wolf Park in Indiana. He told me about, I think it was a photographer from National Geographic coming out wanting to take pictures of the dogs and the wolves in the wolf enclosure. And so he went in and he had his camera and he had all his lenses, and there was one of the dog wolf people there with him, of course. And I mean, these are dogs, wolves who are they've been raised human adjacent, and some were even hand raised, and they're used in studies that compare wolf behavior with dog behavior, things like that. Anyway, but so the guy, he was fixing his camera, and he put one of the lenses down, put another one on, and the wolf fixed it up, and he is not going to let it go. And those jaws are, what's it meant to say? Let's try it. And it was, you know, a very expensive piece of equipment. And so he panicked. He had, what am I going to do? And the woman just reached in her pocket and got this, you know, used tissue and dropped it on the floor over here. And he dropped that one to that and she picked it up. And when Dr. Klinghammer was telling me this, he said, I see it all the time in supermarkets. You're going down the aisle and the kid wants the, you know, some god-awful Lucky Charms. And the mother doesn't want it, and then there's, you know, weeping, gnashing of teeth, blah, 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 blah. And he said, you have to give them something else to distract. Distraction therapy, very powerful stuff. Give them something else to distract them. Don't say, no, we're not getting that. That is amplifying, ramping it up. Give them something else. So with your dog, when it's doing something you don't want it to do, make something else more interesting. And the other thing is, cannot tell you enough, you have to be interesting for your dogs to find you interesting. You have to be fun, you have to be a good time. Yes.
So all of your work is with dogs.
Yeah.
But what's up with cats?
Well, I have cats, so, and they're like dogs because I treat them the same way. Cats are release oxytocin. Cats are a different animal. There you go. I mean, you know, they have a different genealogy. They have a different genetic makeup, and dogs are very. We work with dogs because of the overlapping of the social brain network that allows this incredible level of communication, cooperation, and guide dogs for the blind, police, that's the one. So, but with cats, here's what I would say about cats. For all the science that's being done, I do think the real reason that the internet was created was for cat videos. It isn't the first time we've done something by mistake. But if you look at, and not just cat videos, but if you look at the cat videos that are now out there, like gazillions, and you see the levels of interspecies cooperation or behaviors that everybody said, oh, cats don't do that, cats love it. You know, I mean, really talk about typecasting. The internet is blowing all of that out of the water, and all of the things that were dismissed as anthropomorphic or cat lady stuff, or you know, or just, you know, miserable people that can't get along with humans, and so they, you know, apply all these, you know, try to fill the hole, all of that. No, there's the hard proof that whether it's octopus are incredibly social with humans. I mean, the internet to me is the thing that is resetting all of our expectations, widening our imagination about the human-animal bond, and about the interspecies stuff. And you know, my problem is, you know, I can't stop. I'm gonna have carpal tunnel and scrolling, you know. But so cats, they have slightly different genetic and oxytocin centers and things like that. But they're incredible. My cat goes for rides in the car. Last night into town to get something, in the boat, on the kayak, goes for walks. They can and they will. It's just that people don't ask them. And then they're pretty good, like just hanging by themselves, but you go, come on, please come. They come. So I think cats are just misunderstood. I think that the human-cat bond is ripe for bigger things. Yes?
I was given an abused cat 2 years ago. And the cat for about 4 months growled and hissed at me daily, every time I would walk into the room. One day I finally opened up the door and let her, she seemed to be getting better. She'd rub up against me, but don't touch me.
On her terms.
My whole life has been on her terms.
See? They're training us.
You know, tell everybody don't touch her, but she goes up and she rubs up against them, and she looks up and you just want to cuddle her. But so I have learned to live with her, and it's been a wonderful experience to watch her grow. She's becoming more accustomed to people in the house, but I treats her, you know, just throw a treat this way and she'll get out of your way and stop growling and jumping at you. But I have one question. She now is such to the point that she will come in at night, but she sleeps with me, it has been a long time. But she comes in and she stares at me. And then she gets that attack scare and she attacks me. Yep, she jumps at my arm and then she runs away. She doesn't hurt me. And
Only when she comes in at night?
well, that's really the only time we sort of have any real time together. If
Where has she been prior to the attack?
She's just been getting ready for bed, yeah, I've given her.
So she hasn't been outside?
Oh, gosh,
No, she's not an outside cat.
No. She's been confined to the house, she loves to go, would love to go outside. But at night, sometimes she gets the runs and runs around the house.
Yeah, they do that.
But she will sit there and I'm reading and she will stare at me and she gets to the stair which I know is a cat. And I stare back at her and then so if I look away or move, she won't do that.
So you invite it through staring?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
You are. Yeah, try this, try blinking.
Oh, I have tried that, yes.
Does that
I've
help
done
at
a
all?
lot of reading and
Yeah.
all I have is cat.
Well, I think it sounds like a play, even though it's manifesting with teeth.
That's right, and then she jumps at my leg.
Yeah, she wants to
walking.
play.
She wants to play.
Female cats at night
Yeah,
get really
yeah.
around.
but it really is an attack stare. and
Oh,
I
that's
do-
hilarious. I'm sorry, but well, she's at least warning that it's coming.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I saw that I thought looked really interesting was I have one of those expandable back scratchers.
Yeah.
And petting those cats that don't want to be touched with the back scratcher. Have you tried that?
No, she loves to be petted, no, I wouldn't
Now she
dare,
does.
but I've never held her,
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't rub her, but she loves to be petted, she comes up at night and she wants her head rubbed, she's a wonderful cat.
Well, I think, it sounds to me like, she sounds wonderful.
She's been terribly abused, she's only had 2 owners before me.
Well, 2 is too many. I mean, that like, if you had a kid, you're like, oh, you only had 2 foster homes before me?
Well,
That's-
she's been abused
not good.
then.
Megan,
Well, I think you've done
And not
wonderful.
socialized.
we have one more question in the back.
Yes, okay, yes, hi.
Hi, I just wanted to say that, growing up, we had every kind of animal. My mother had, we didn't live in the country, but we had dogs, cats, birds,
Lucky you.
swans, fish, mice, monkey, skunk.
Monkey?
Yeah, my sister brought it home from college, someone
College.
adopted it.
Those
didn't
college
want it,
monkeys.
Someone didn't want it, so my mother just took them on. Anyway, I love them all, every animal, but in my adult life, my career prevented me from having a dog because I didn't want to leave at home when I had a long commute from almost the day. I just didn't think it was right. So I've always had cats, and I have to say that I've had dozens of cats. People used to drop them off in our neighborhood because they knew we'd take care of them. Pregnant cats, cats with new babies, whatever.
Yeah.
And I have always took in rescues, and I adopted this pair of rescues, the one of which lived much longer than her sister. And when I got older and started to have really bad arthritis, just like a dog, she would know if I was in pain. And I'm tall and kind of lanky, and she would sleep on the part of my leg that was aching. And she just would know, and it was like a hot water bottle. Or if I would come home from work and I had a bad day, for work reasons or personal reasons, she would be up on my chest, I love you, I love you. And I have a book about telepathic communication with animals. All my life I would be telling people, well, this animal is saying this, or that animal is saying that. And then I read the book, it's like, I've been doing this all my life. I thought it was a joke, but it's real. Because I understand what they're saying, how they look, and how they interact with you. But yeah, now I have a relationship with birds because I don't have a cat because of arthritis. I don't keep getting up and down.
So you finally have birds.
I have birds outdoors.
Yeah.
That come looking for me if I don't feed them.
Cardinals? They can be very demanding.
Well, yes.
I think it's a cardinal thing.
But I have a question about the dogs.
Uh-huh.
The village picture that you showed, the dogs were emaciated, and so were the people. How do you get these dogs in Africa to be so hungry? What's the?
They're not
I mean, so well fed, so healthy as they look in these pictures. The West.
Well, we teach people in the schools, we teach children that dogs should be fed and given water. this is news to them.
Wow.
Yes. So that's the
So
start.
it's like, they're doing something, you can do something.
Yeah, and now when our graduates go out in the community and they're walking their dogs on a leash, and the dogs do better easily walking than any dogs I see. And people want to know where they got them. Where can I get one of those dogs? It's like right at your house, right there. It's right there, and that's what we're trying to teach them. Every dog can be this dog. So it's very baby days, you know, it's early, it's very rudimentary what we're doing, but the effects are profound. And it tells me that this is what happened 30, 40,000 years ago too. It changed humanity this way. Two things I'd like to leave you with. One is quality of attention that you show your animals. I don't think many of you are probably, you know, guilty of this. Get the earphones out on the walk. If you're, you know, be there, be fully with your pet. That it takes a village. So if you know somebody that has a dog and they're working, you can say, would you like me to walk your dog for you? You know, let's see if we can allo parent some dogs. We'll all get the benefit of it, and not everybody can have a pet right now or at some point in their life, but maybe you could help, and it would be great for you. So that's it, kids. Oh, and it's good for your heart rate, blood pressure, by the way. You'll survive a heart attack more if you have a
And she has her books for sale in the back.